Welcome to Diary of a CIO. My name is Sam Ebrahim. I'm the New South Wales Executive General Manager for Truku, a national recruitment business. The purpose of this podcast is to really share the insights and stories of CIOs from across Australia. There's a lot of content and has been for a while around technology transformation, agile versus waterfall, etc. But it's very rare to hear the story of the individual. With that in mind, I'd love to welcome Russell Morris onto the show today. Myself and Russell met a while back and were instantly bonded by our love of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, as well as being fellow Brits, and he is an exceptional CIO. Welcome to the show, Russell.
Thank you, Sam. Great to be here. My journey's been a fantastic one. I've recently just gone out and started my own adventure, but I look back on my time as a CIO, and there's a lot going on out there.
Yeah, there certainly is, and thank you. And in today's podcast, we are going to be covering some very interesting stories that Russell's been through in his career, including Warren Buffett and the breaking of the land speed record in the UK, as well as his journey to where he is today, from the UK through other parts of the world to Australia, and some tips and advice around tackling the fractional CIO market that is a big topic in the current climate. So just a bit of an intro to yourself, Russell, there. Just a little bit of a high-level discussion around your journey from where you started to where you are today.
Yeah, my journey hasn't really been a straight line at all. It began in the UK, had a screwdriver in one hand, a network topology map in the other, and I was a Cisco engineer. And it turned out that I was a lot better at organising people aspect of technology than I necessarily was at being a Cisco engineer. So I found my route into leadership a lot earlier than I'd expected, and I think we're going to talk a bit about that journey today.
Yeah, 100%. And how did your career start then? So were you educated in a technology background, or what was your entry into the actual technology world?
Yeah, so I started, I've always been a bit of a have your cake and eat it person. So my career choice was go to university or get a job. And I thought, well, why can't I do both of those? So I got a job with ABB, large multinational company, as an apprentice in the IT function. But then I did university degree at night school.
Okay.
And so I did 3 nights a week for 3 years because someone said, you can't do both. So I like to prove people wrong in things like that. That's kind of how I started.
Interesting journey. And what was your route to Australia? Because you're not a born and raised Australian, you're a Brit like myself. So what was your route to coming over here?
Yeah, that's a really long story that I'll try and make shorter. So I've had the great privilege actually of working in 3 continents and more than 10 countries.
Oh, wow.
The journey here to Australia was actually from a company called Transgrid. They'd just been privatised by the government, and they were looking for a CIO. They couldn't quite find the right formula locally in Australia. And I remember it really well. One day, stuck in a traffic jam on the way home, I got a phone call, Australian number comes up. I'm thinking, oh, who's that? And it was a recruiter saying, hey, ever thought of working down under? And that's about 2017, 2018, and I've been here kind of ever since. That Transgrid opportunity was the beginning of my Australian adventure.
And what was the transition like? If you compare, I suppose, CIOs and their function, their role in the other parts of the world that you've worked in, how does it compare to Australia, and how did you, I suppose, adapt your style or approach to suit the local market?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I've coined the phrase psychology is more important than technology.
Yep.
And I kind of stick by that. And one of my early adventures into that was I was working for a venture capitalist organisation, and they had multiple brands in Europe. And my job was to get the French, Spanish, Germans, Italians, Danish, token Russian even to all work together, and kind of how you do business in France, how you do business in Germany, the ethos of the different cultures was very different. I remember we had a challenge where, because it was PE owned, we were the risk of breaking banking covenants. So we merged with the Dutch French business. Mm-hmm. We actually had a Dutch assimilation course, and the kind of advice was from the Dutch team, look, once you've got to 70%, stop, because you've probably got all the value you can. Mm-hmm. It's not worth necessarily the last 30%. And I remember my German colleagues nearly falling off their chair. They were like 100% or nothing. And it just shows that the technology might be the same across multiple geographies, but the way you apply it, the way that you do business, how you win the hearts and minds of the people, that's the differentiator. I've noticed Australia is a little bit of a mashup, really, between the US and the UK. And so it was really easy to join in and get stuck into the culture.
Yeah, and that term that you use, psychology, not technology, where did that come from? What was the epiphany that kind of came to mind for you?
Oh, I'm quite infamous for my analogies. Anyone that knows me will probably be smiling at that. In fact, when I left Transgrid and joined APA, they actually named a cocktail after me called the Analogizer, which we had at my leaving do. So that was good. Because of that kind of love of analogies and wordplay, I think people talk a lot about psychology or technology, but it's really hearts and minds. When you think of what I call the Holy Trinity, people, process, and technology, only 1/3 of those is actually tech. 2/3 of that is who are the people and what do they believe and how do they get work done. And if you can harness that, you've already got 2/3 of the problem. Mostly the technology just works.
And what's your approach to understanding people and taking them on the journey? Because I think a lot of people, particularly, I suppose, the typical route to CIO, which is actually quite atypical now, is the linear route up through technology to the top. And just because you're a good technologist doesn't necessarily mean you naturally translate into a good people leader. Yes. So what is your advice to people listening to this podcast around how to approach understanding different types of people and taking them on that journey?
Yeah, I think another term I've coined, professional listening.
Okay.
Right. I think it really doesn't hurt to just stop and take a bit of time to listen, observe, and see what you can notice yourself. And then try and translate that into walking a mile in the shoes of other people. How would people use it? So in technology, we've managed to tackle that by the use of personas, for example. So a persona of a field worker whose tool of trade is maybe a spanner or some industrial engineering equipment. And then someone who's a back office accountant. They need something very different from technology. But too often functions turn up with a universal face, but the problem's distinctly different. And that's the adaptability of that and able to find something in it that speaks to the value chain that those people are working in.
Yeah, so it's intrinsically motivating people, understanding what's really important to them and hooking into that and then taking them on that journey.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. Talking about leadership, you got an opportunity to lead people at a very early stage. So I think you're in your 20s and a CEO gave the opportunity to lead. Talk us through that story. What was the circumstances there? What happened?
Yeah, that was really a fantastic opportunity, amazing and scary at the same time. So the CIO at the time had left and the CEO took me aside. And I was about, 23, 24, something like that, and said, hey, we would like you to run the team. And I was, I think, the youngest person in the team, and there was people in there that had worked there a long time, some even older than my dad. And it was like, gee, I don't know if I can do it. But the CEO at the time, Tim, and thanks again, Tim, he's just said, look, there's something about you. You can do it, and I'll back you to make sure that you can. And create the ingredients for you to be successful. And it was a scary time, but everyone supported me, everyone backed me, and I pulled it off.
And what do you think it was about you that the CEO looked at and thought this young Russell's got potential?
Yeah, probably just a massive curiosity for everything.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, how does it work? That's probably been on me from a young age, from taking my dad's lawnmower apart, and listening to his reaction when it didn't work, and just insane curiosity. How does it work? How do we learn? How do we get the best out of something? And just get it done.
And what was it like leading at such a young age when you've got people, like you said, similar or older than your dad? How did you win those guys over and get their trust as the youngest in the actual team? Yeah,
that was a lot of learning. I would definitely say I didn't get it right. Probably got it wrong more than I got it right at the beginning. But the thing is, as a team, we all wanted to succeed.
Yep.
And as a team, we either won or we lost. So it wasn't that I was successful or someone else was successful. We all win or we all lose.
Yep.
And I also looked at the failures as a really good opportunity. So I don't look at it as kind of win or lose in that respect. It's win or learn.
Yep.
And if you think about that in a different way, actually they're both wins, right?
Yeah.
So you win something, you get it right, or you learn something, and then that helps you get it right again.
Yeah.
And that's just a fantastic way of, I think, going through these experiences and using them to enrich how you get things done.
Yeah, I think that's a great term, win or learn. And what was it like your first role in leadership? Was that for you the moment you thought, I'm going to leave the technology behind, I'm going to become a people leader, or was it a journey you went through that was a blend of roles kind of moving forward?
Well, I said I started as a Cisco engineer, so I know how to splice 50 micron fiber or 62.5 micron fiber. A network engineer, but then I just like talking to the people, finding out what the problems were, and getting things done that way.
Yeah. Okay. What's been the most enjoyable role of your career, would you say? Or what's the one that you've won and learnt the most in your career?
Yeah, probably my favourite role to date. It's always risky naming favourites, right? But probably working at Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett was one of my business idols.
Yep.
There's obviously famous case studies about business leaders like Jack Welch and how ruthless he was and what you can learn from that, which is quite a lot. But Warren Buffett's just infamously brilliant at compounding value year on year on year and doing it in such an understated way that I just could not pass up the opportunity to go and work there. And it gave me opportunities in the UK, in the US. I had a fantastic time touring a 550 megawatt solar farm in San Luis Obispo in California, and got a ride on the private jet to go to Des Moines in Iowa. There's not much in Des Moines in Iowa, but it was just really good to look at how that worked. And there was another great facet to it. There was a CIO leadership council for all the brands that Berkshire owns. And I was very fortunate to be in that council. So you could see how businesses like Duracell run their IT, or how businesses like Kraft Heinz or Burlington Railroad or Geico, other big brands that Berkshire have ownership of. And you could just see how they did it slightly differently to align to what they needed to do from a system of differentiation or even a system of innovation, how they can build different technology solutions with pretty much the same toolkit that we all had. So that was really quite insightful. I learned such a lot.
And what was your role there? Was the CIO within that organisation?
Yeah, CIO in an energy division.
Energy division, okay. Yeah. And you mentioned flying in a private jet. Was that Warren Buffett's private jet?
He owns a company called NetJets.
Yep.
And in the US, the travel is kind of ubiquitous on jets. It's such a big place, and it's just how it goes. That was really good fun. I don't do that too often, I'd have to say.
Sure.
But it was, really good.
Did you get to meet Warren in person?
Yeah, I've met him a couple of times.
What's he like?
He would come to our leadership conference, which we would have in Vegas most years. And he was just a phenomenal person. He's got Bloomberg plugged into his ear. He's just knows the market, is excited by it, and takes the time to talk to people. Very humble, inspirational person.
What was the biggest learning you got from being around someone like that? Someone so inspirational, successful. What did you take away from that?
What
would you share with the listeners?
Lots of stories, perhaps. What would I say? Probably one thing that comes to mind is just the belief in the system. Mm-hmm. So the way that he typically operates outside of large investments in things like Apple and Coca-Cola is to find a business with a great brand that's maybe not run as well as it could be, and then extract the potential out of it. Yep. And I think that's how I've learned to lead in my career, apart from I'm not buying very many great big businesses, but what I am doing is to try and extract the potential out of the ones that I'm working in, including the people. I think they're the biggest asset you'll ever have and your market differentiator.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And talking about interesting stories, there's another interesting story that's breaking the land speed record that you were part of as well?
Oh, yeah, that was back in JCB days, the big yellow diggers. You've probably been stuck behind one at some point, although they're a lot faster these days. They don't go quite as fast as the world land speed record does, though. So there was the short version of the story was JCB used to buy a lot of their engines from a company called Perkins, and they decided that we're going to make our own engines, and how can we show the world how awesome our engines are. And working for a founder-led business in Sir Anthony, but now Lord Bamford at the time, he was very determined to show the world that these engines were really good. Not just the folly, but absolutely dependable, high-quality things. And what's the best way to show the world your engine's good? Go really fast. And so we got 560 kilometres an hour out of 2 engines, one powering the front wheels, one powering the rear wheels, packed with ice for each run. And we had a Royal Air Force pilot, a guy called Andy Green, drive that. And it was just a fantastic lift for the whole company, doing something innovative and bold. And I think it's a record that still stands today.
So it was a world record at the time. It still stands today.
It still stands today. That's about 2007 from memory. Yeah.
And what was your? So you worked for JCB at the time.
Yes.
And what was your role within the organisation?
I was the service manager there, working for the CIO, who I've subsequently worked with again. That seems to be a pattern in my life. I tend to gravitate to work with good people. And my role was to make sure that we had all the technology working. So there was a whole bunch of computational fluid dynamics, which is the science of how air flows over a vehicle at speed. And the technology worked. We didn't need to turn it on and off again too much, and broke the world land speed record. So it's a fantastic thing.
Amazing story. Did you get any sort of medal or award or anything to take home and put in the fridge?
I've got a small model of the JCB Diesel Max. Yeah.
Okay.
I should have brought that in, visual aid. But no, it's still, and they put the car in the reception of the building for people to look at. So it was just a great example of how you can make a galvanizing moment that took the whole company from being just a manufacturing business to being a world record breaking company.
Amazing.
And I think that's something you have to try and harness in any company.
Yeah, 100%. You talked earlier on about curiosity. Is that your guiding star? I think you seem to get yourself in some very exciting opportunities and achieve some great things. So is that what you say was your guiding star throughout your career? It's just curiosity?
Yeah, curiosity, I think, and also just having a passion to get things done. I think when I first started, I would look for problems and try and solve them before people asked me to solve them.
Yep.
Often that meant I'd take on more than I had the capacity to do, but it was just, you find a way to get through it. And I think early in my career, when I was talking to Tim, the CEO that gave me that chance, he said, Russell, never take on a job you think you can do, because you're going to find a way to overcome those things and find a way to get it done. A bit like training for a marathon. You probably aren't the strongest the first time you go out for a run, but you get stronger and stronger and you can accomplish more and more. And I think that's what it's about.
And how do you have that self-belief and confidence? I think a lot of people will probably listen to that and think about that, but then it's sometimes a leap too far for a lot of people. Where do you get your self-belief and confidence from?
Ooh, good question. Where do I get it from? I think you have to believe in yourself first. Because if you don't believe in yourself, it's really hard for others to believe in you.
Yeah.
And when your role is the leader, if the team don't believe in the leader, it's really hard to win.
Yeah.
And when the team do believe in the leader, it's so much better.
Yeah.
I know maybe Spurs don't necessarily have the examples to look at other than Ange just recently, but pick someone like Alex Ferguson, and the Man United players would want to play for Fergie. They wanted to win for him and for the team and not for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we have to try and harness as CIOs and leaders, that spirit of everyone wins.
Yeah. And I think, again, going back to something you said earlier about getting the most out of people and seeing their potential, how do you, new person in an organisation, you got a team that you've inherited, how do you assess people's potential? How do you identify the rising stars compared to the people that maybe aren't necessarily the right people to go on the journey with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes there's a lot of gut instinct, call it spidey senses or something, but you instinctively know the people that are asking for opportunities, the people that are putting their hand up, the people that are volunteering, the people that are kind of admitting really openly, look, I don't know this, but I'd like to learn it. I think creating an opportunity for people to be vulnerable and for them to do that, and then you support them by investing in them.
Yeah.
I know when I joined APA in my first week or so, I talked to the team and said, hey, how many of you have been on training in the last 12 months? And I think about 5 people put their hand up. And I thought for a minute and said, let me ask the question in a different way. How many people asked for training in the last 12 months? The same 5 people. So that shows you that if you put yourself out there and you push a bit, you kind of pretty much get what you want. But if you wait for it to be handed to you, you might be waiting a long time.
Yeah, I think owning your own destiny and seeking out, as you said, kind of seeking out opportunities and seeking out challenges is what's key to a lot of the people in this podcast I speak to are very much in the same mindset to yourself.
Yeah, I think you just have to believe in yourself. And one lesson I would probably give to my younger self was ask for help earlier. People love helping other people.
Yeah.
It's one of my passions. If someone says, hey, Russell, I'm stuck, can you help me? I can't wait to put down what I'm doing and go and try and help that person.
Yeah.
And I think many people are exactly the same. And if you don't find the person that wants to help you, you're probably in the wrong place. So go and find somewhere where they'll invest in you and they'll support you so that you can become the best version of yourself that you can be.
And have you been fortunate enough to have those, you speak about Tim kind of early in their career, but have you had those leaders throughout your career?
Yeah, I've been super lucky to do that. This is the danger of name-checking people. But there's a guy called Neil I've worked with for a long time. He's a friend and a mentor, and I still talk to him now. A guy called Tom, who was a CFO back in the UK. Just great supporters. People that are just genuinely invested in mutual success.
Yeah.
And I think those are the people you need to seek out and partner with. And that goes back to the thing I said before, everyone wins and everyone loses. There's no point, I've got a few soccer analogies creeping in here, but there's no point scoring 3 if you let in 5.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a trend in your career around physical, tangible things.
Oh, yes.
And that excites you. I think we spoke about this before. Like there's other industries, for example, finance, which is a great industry, but doesn't have the same romance as seeing like the fruits of your labor in terms of the physical products actually making a difference to people's lives. So I think there's been energy, there's been construction, engineering businesses. Is that something that gets you out of bed in the morning?
Oh, absolutely. Like I think it would be, don't get me wrong, it would be fun to make $200 million on a spreadsheet, but where's the passion and the romance in that?
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed any business that makes something, that delivers a service. I remember at ABB we had the robotic division, and there's 2 robots that I got to see prototyped that are just fascinating. One made aluminium garden chairs, and it'd take the pole and bend it and move it into position and weld the corners, and you watch a long tube of aluminium go in and a finished chair come out. It's just mesmerizing. Yep. And another great one was a cake cutting robot for a big industrial company called Geist that make 30 portion frozen gateaus. But when the gateau's frozen, it's really hard to cut. And so they needed a robot that could cut it into portions. And that was awesome. And I just watched the evolution of how they did that. And they ended up with a sonic blade, which is a blade that has a really high resonance so that the cake doesn't stick to it. But the fun upside of that is that when my grandmother was alive, I used to take all of the unused cake to the care home where she lived. So every kind of Friday afternoon, all the old ladies would be looking out the window waiting for me to turn up with cake. And then when we finally got that robot working smoothly, obviously there's no ruined cakes that I can take home. And that was a dark day.
Welcome at the home anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I love anything like that.
Yeah. And what's there's a lot of organisations out there that make stuff. How do you choose the organisations that are right for you? What's the advice you give to listeners who are potentially looking at opportunities and trying to work out what the right organisation is for them?
Yeah, I think maybe two things. The first is choose on culture always. Like, is it a culture that will support you, invest in you, allow you to fail and to learn and to grow?
Yeah.
And if that culture is there, then that's a massive tick. You're almost already home. But also look for opportunity, a bit like the way that I described Warren Buffett buys businesses. Look for opportunity, look for rough diamonds that you can polish into something really spectacular. And because you'll look back and you can just proudly then say, I did that.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing better than saying that look at that and that's what I've done.
Yeah. And we spoke a lot about people and leadership. How important is that to you? How important is leadership and creating the next series of Russell Morrises?
Oh, very important. Yeah, no, I was actually I fell into mentorship through a Women in STEM program.
Okay.
In the UK, we'd go into schools and talk about science, technology with up and comers, so kind of 13, 14, 15-year-olds. And it was just such a good feeling, an unexpectedly good feeling to turn the lights on in the eyes of these young people and just see a spark. And I've carried that on. So I was a mentor with UTS and with UNSW. And in Australia, I've had the privilege of mentoring about 6 awesome women and seeing them on to go and do some fantastic things, one of which is a CIO in her own right now.
Amazing. What's your approach to mentorship? I think I spoke to a CIO today who was very keen to give time back, but didn't really understand what frameworks or how to approach it. So how do you approach mentorship and making sure that you've got the right framework or whatever you might call it to make sure that what comes out the other end is good?
Yeah, so how do I do that? A few different ways depending on the character, but even at APA, I mentored 2 women that were nothing to do with technology. They're in the engineering department. And when the mentoring phase had finished, they both asked me if I would carry on talking and sharing things with them. And there must be something good, because when they were made to do it, that's one thing. But when they're volunteering and coming to me and saying, hey, can we carry on? That shows you must have it right. And what I would typically do is just say, look, tell me about your week. Tell me about your month. What's happened? Where did it go really well? And where did it just not go well? And let's talk about why it went well and what we can do, see if we can repeat that. And where did it not go well? And why didn't it go well? And try and create a psychologically safe space to just completely like fail or break into tears or to just celebrate and be happy and understand and listen. And I think that's really all it is. There's no magic formula to it. It's just being there and being available for people to just feel safe and sharing what's going on in their world and just listen, use your experience. I think the benefit of working in 3 continents and 10 countries and all these cultures is I've probably seen it somewhere before. And then you can relate, right, yes. And then you can give real world examples and then they feel like they're not alone. You know, the old a problem shared is a problem halved. Go and halve people's problems.
It's a good idea. I like that. What else is important to you? People, leadership, like what else kind of drives you out of bed in the morning?
I think making a difference always does. That sounds a bit cliched, I suppose, but getting things done, looking back and kind of seeing that you've made a difference, and every day, a bit like I don't know, metaphorical version of pressure washing a dirty patio or something. There's something really satisfying about that. You can see the progress you've made. You can see where you've been. You can look back and say, I did that. And as long as you're constantly kind of doing that, making a difference and sharing the impact of it, I think that's really important. A lot of technical professionals, and myself included at one point, didn't often share the outcomes of what technology would do. And often the most you can expect is that no one rings. And I think that's such a shame. So celebrate it, show people, and put yourself out there and share your story. People do want to listen.
And you talked a lot about outcomes there. how do you prioritize? How do you prioritize where your attention should go and what your focus should be when there's a multitude of challenges or opportunities in front of you? How do you work out where you should put your time and attention?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably I try to understand the pre and post dependencies of a thing. So if I'm going to work on something, I think, well, what do I have to do to make it work? So again, another one of my famous analogies is a good seed in bad soil just won't grow.
Yep.
So if I've got a good seed of an idea or an opportunity, but the soil conditions are wrong for that, then what are we going to do about that? So unless we fix that, then we're not going to be able to get the best harvest that we can from that thing. And I think if we're at the top of a short ladder on something, it's my job to work out how we can create opportunities to grow and to climb.
Yeah.
And where they come along, they're the ones that I try and focus on the most, because a short-term tactical return sometimes is necessary, and that's okay. But if you act tactically, it must always be while you're thinking strategically.
Yep.
And I think that's how you make a decision on what to work on and when not to work on.
Yeah.
Think strategically, act tactically, and then just make sure you've got that right blend.
Yeah. And talk about, obviously, we talked around females in technology as well, which you're a huge advocate of, and that's a big passion of yours.
Yes.
What have you seen in the market over the last kind of 5 to 10 years in terms of, I suppose, the change in landscape when it comes to diversity? And are there any obstacles or challenges that you think still exist that need to be broken down and worked on?
Yeah, good question. I think diversity is such an important thing in all its forms. Yep. So I think if you take the gender part out for a moment, I think diversity of opinion is one of the most important things you can have. If you surround yourself with people that are just the same as you, you're going to get groupthink and you're not going to get those challenges. So I think, for example, when I build teams, we had people coming in from an airline, people coming in from tax, from the ATO, just different ways of solving problems. And I think that diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of opinion is just such a valuable thing.
Yeah.
And I guess working in all these countries, you see that. The way that you kind of do business in France is different to the way you do business in Italy, which is different to the US. So it's about understanding how that works.
Yeah, and that comes back to psychology, not technology.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, if you look at how much people spend on R&D globally, I think that technology pretty much works. Mm-hmm. It's the people that mess it up.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the thing that we need to work on. Yeah. It's a level playing field. Everyone has access to the same tech. Why it works, why it doesn't work, is related to what you do with it.
And what's your thoughts on how technology had advanced? And we've obviously got AI, we've got robots coming in as well. Like, is this something you're actively engaging in and thinking is a good thing, or do you think there needs to be more of an ethical view in terms of how technology is used and applied?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've been pondering actually there's so many choices, right, about AI. We could rattle off a dozen without trying. And the thing that I've reflected on is who's programming the AI and what biases may they be naturally coding in. So if you happen to be a middle-aged white male and you were the coder of this particular thing, it wouldn't be too surprising to see that the AI acted like a middle-aged white male.
Yep.
And is there inherent bias in some AI? And I've tried multiple flavors of AI, and they're all very subtly different. Yep. You can give it a challenge or a problem, and they don't come back with the same solution or answer. So I think that's something to be thought about really carefully.
I think as well, there's technology can be applied to a lot of things, but there's also never really the question asked of should we be doing this or should we be using technology for this? So I think the struggle I speak to with CIOs at the moment, to the business is demanding we want AI, we want AI, but do we need it and is it right for the business? So it seems to be a big trend at the moment where everyone wants to drive AI, but there's not really take a step back and think about whether it's actually going to be right for the business or not. Yeah, well, AI is not magic, right? And I saw I think it was a Harvard professor, it could have been an MIT professor, said, look, for AI, the A should stand for actual. Yeah.
Right? It should have some actual intelligence. And if the humans are intelligent, if the humans know how it's supposed to work and the potential of it, then AI can be quite useful, could be powerful. Think of it as an outcome accelerator.
Yep.
If you've got a really good process and you can turbocharge it with AI, then you're probably going to get benefits faster. But if you've got a bit of a poor process,
Yeah.
and you turbocharge it with AI, you'll probably get rubbish faster.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know any CIO that wants to get rubbish quicker.
Yeah. I think the analogy garbage in, garbage out is used very widely and quite rightly so with AI tools.
Yeah, absolutely. But it can be used for some fantastic things. So people just don't naturally think of all forms of data as accessible. So like photographs are data. You can use AI to inspect rust on a bolt and see what the predictive likelihood of failure of the tower or the thing is. And it's just exposing new ways of solving old problems.
Yep. You've had the great opportunity recently to explore the fractional CIO market, which I think seems to be a hot topic at the moment. I think there's some really good CIOs who are exploring the fractional market as well. There's a lot of CIOs that want to but don't know how to go about it. How's that journey been for you in terms of getting yourself ready and finding the opportunities and making sure you're having the right conversations to access those opportunities as well?
Yeah, I think what I've just started recently, my new advisory firm, Wexley Advisory, shameless plug. And the thing I've found is it's the professional networks and people you know have actually been a fantastic help there. So when it became known that I'd left APA and started out on my own, I got phone calls from people I didn't know who knew me. And said, hey, we've heard you're available. Would you like to come and help us with this? Or would this be in your wheelhouse? And I think just invest in your professional networks. You can't get better than that. I think if you're trusted, if you've got those ins, that's really going to help. I don't. It's very new in my journey, but I'm pretty sure I probably won't get business from advertising on the side of a bus or something. I'm going to get it through reputation and through delivery and through recommendations and professional networks. So link in with organisations that can help you do that. I know Truku do some fantastic things in that arena to help people connect, whether it's trying to learn how to become a non-exec director or to learn other things. Those networking opportunities that companies like Truku and others provide just are fantastic. Go and join them, be part of it.
And it sounds to me like the journey to become a fractional CEO starts many, many years before. And it's about how you present yourself, the work you do throughout your career to get you to the point where you decide, I want to try this now. And you've got those networks and those opportunities kind of at hand. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say that's right. Yeah. But I never thought of it quite that way. An opportunity presented itself for me and I decided I would take it. I was self-employed once in the UK for a short time at British Telecom, doing some fantastic stuff, but that's when I got that Buffett phone call and I had to go there. I had to go work with Berkshire Hathaway, and so I only did that job for about 9 months or so. And so it's a great time to kind of unlock something that's been kind of dormant for a while. And I think that's just fantastic. But the other thing was the advice I was getting from some other major consultancy groups wasn't actually that different to what I was already thinking. And the difference was I've actually done it before. So people talk about, we'll sell you an operating model or we'll sell you this or we'll sell you that. But the people doing the work have theoretically know the answer, but have never actually done it. So it's a bit like a football coach trying to teach players, then they've never kicked a ball. And I think that becomes an opportunity for me to add something, the experience, but all the practical reality of what it means. What does it mean to play 90 minutes at a high pace? That's a reality that unless you've done it, you don't know.
What's the opportunities that present themselves to you at that fractional CIO? They would be very different to what you've done throughout the most of your career, because is it more around solving a problem now? So come in, quick fix and kind of move on. Is that the type of work that you're seeing in the market? Yeah,
probably a bit more of that. It's how do you help us get unstuck and then give us the tools to not get stuck again.
Yeah.
And then inevitably people will find another roadblock or another challenge, and you just become someone's trusted advisor. I don't really desire to work in an organisation for a long time. That means they're not really addressing the challenge. To go in there, help them, and watch them flourish. That's the joy. That's the dream.
Okay. And your advisory company has got a very interesting name that's actually got a good story behind it.
Oh, yeah. It comes from, well, my initial thought is it's old and English, a bit like me. And, there's a seaside village in the UK that gave me inspiration for the name. But I wanted something that sounded a bit more distinctive, reflected kind of me. And it's probably inspired a bit by Berkshire Hathaway. That was a textile mill, was one of the first businesses that Warren Buffett ever bought. And what does Berkshire Hathaway really mean? And what does Wexley really mean? There's a story there if you look close enough.
And what's next for you then? Are you going to stick out the fractional CIO work for the foreseeable future? Are you keen to get back into more of a tangible asset organisation where you can drive years of transformation? What's your thinking?
Oh, that's. I try not to pigeonhole myself. At the moment, I'm having a great time helping some organisations kick some goals, and that's really enjoyable. I'd never say never. If the right job comes along, like the opportunity at Berkshire that I've talked about, the opportunity to work in something fantastic, it's going to be really hard for me to not go for that. But until that comes along, I'm really loving the new adventure. I'm loving the new dynamic. My old world as a kind of CIO was lots of meetings and lots of challenges, and doing work like this gives me an opportunity to focus on one thing and kick a goal without necessarily all the interruptions that you get as a busy CIO.
Yeah, I think keep on doing what you're doing, and I'm sure those opportunities will come up very shortly.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Russell's been an amazing guest, as expected. Today we discussed a lot of really interesting topics. Russell's interactions with Warren Buffett, part of the team that broke the land speed record, talking about his journey from a early and young engineer to where he is today, and also how to access the fractional CIO market, as well as the value of diversity, not just gender, but diversity of thought in leadership teams. So as with all my guests, before we close out the podcast, I want to ask you one question, which you did touch on earlier in the podcast, so you can't use that answer. But what's the one bit of advice you wish you gave yourself early in your career?
Oh, probably as a young up-and-comer, what would advice I give myself? Probably don't try and impress with jargon and what you know. Impress people with clarity.
Okay.
I think people are not going to remember your architecture diagram, but they will remember that you made the complex simple.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Please like, comment and share, and stay tuned for more content coming soon. Thank you.